As teaching staff, have you ever been in a situation with a child where they've completely lost control and it's become quite dangerous? They may have been lashing out or even trying to hurt themselves. What did you do? Sometimes in these situations, we freeze. We process the scene in front of us and make a decision. This video will take you through some strategies on how to deal with children in crisis and give you confidence that you'll get this right. I'm Natalie from My Progression, and this video is all about harmful risk behaviour. This is the third video in a series on intervention. Check out the first video here. And whilst you're there, like and subscribe to keep hearing more from My Progression. Remember, My Progression offers CPD certificates to allow you to evidence your learning. See the description for more information. What is risk behaviour? Dealing with extremely challenging or risky behaviours in the classroom is not surprisingly one of the hardest aspects of being a teacher, and unfortunately, the one that causes the most anxiety in education staff. For the most part, you'll be able to recognise escalating behaviours and intervene early on. However, despite your very best efforts, there may be occasions when behaviour continues to escalate further. As someone's levels of distress increases more and more, they might begin to demonstrate physical behaviour that poses a risk to themselves or other people. What we mean by risk behaviour is behaviour that presents an imminent or immediate risk of harm to themselves or others around them. A child or young person could act totally impulsively, or they could be deliberate in their actions. What do you look out for? Prevention and early intervention are the most effective strategies to help stop a situation escalating out of control. Physical displays of risk behaviour could include their face getting redder and redder, exaggerated huffing and puffing, clenched fists, throwing things, hitting, kicking, punching, spitting, pulling hair, biting, and even self-harming. All of these things can be alarming to see in the classroom. However, it's vital that as the responsible adult in this situation, you remember to stay calm in your communication. How you react will have a direct impact on the outcome of the crisis situation. Our video, Calm Communication, provides lots of tips in managing your own calm to assist in dealing with these types of situations. So check it out after this video. Recommended approaches. Whenever you need to intervene with a child or young person who's displaying risk behaviours, we recommend that you focus on non-physical interventions. Before we get into this, some of you may be aware of MAPA or Team Teach qualifications that teach and allow you to responsibly use physical restraints and guides. I want to emphasise that unless you're fully certified to use these skills, you will not be allowed to use them in the school environment. There are certain exceptions to this rule, however. You have a duty of care to keep your children safe. If you see any child at risk of harm to themselves or causing harm to others, you must act. And the way you act must be reasonable, necessary, and proportionate. The best way I can explain this is with two examples. My daughter's 2.5. If she was on a trip with her nursery and suddenly broke free from the group and started running towards a busy road, and the only thing that you could do to stop her was grab her arm and pull her back, do you think I'd be angry at that? No. I'd buy you a box of Quality Street. That's because it's reasonable, necessary, and proportionate. On the other hand, you're in one of the rooms in the nursery, she just keeps getting up and distracting other children who are trying to sleep, she's causing a commotion and generally being a terror. I may be drawing on real life examples here. If you walked over and grabbed her arm and pulled her away from the other children, is that okay? Absolutely not. Taking steps that are not reasonable, proportionate and necessary goes against the first responsibility of anyone who works with young or vulnerable people. If you're not sure where the line is, ask yourself, what is the risk of me doing something versus the risk of me not doing something? Non-physical interventions will help you to respond appropriately by considering effective verbal interventions and creating a safer environment with the aim to minimise further harm. See our other video entitled Verbal Interventions for Defensive Behaviour for more on this. Some strategies you could try before having to physically intervene are removing hazardous items or items that could be used to cause harm. For this one, think about sharp objects, heavy objects, or hot or chemical liquids. As an activity, you could take a walk around the classroom you're working in. Are there any current hazards that need to be addressed? Tangled wires, adult scissors in reach of children, Bunsen burners, or any glass objects that could cause harm. Take a moment to survey the environment that you are inviting the children into and ensure it's safe as possible. Remove the person in distress. Is there a sensory room they could go to instead, which will assist them in their de-escalation? Remove collateral damage. If it's clear that the young person in distress can't be easily removed, then it's time to remove the bystanders completely. A scenario to bring this to life could be in a secondary school. A distressed young person is holding a chair above his head, ready to launch it at the window. Your non-physical intervention here would be to remove the bystanders first and foremost. If you tried to remove the young person in distress, you could increase the likelihood that the chair gets thrown at someone. So by removing the audience, you're keeping more people safe from harm. Ask a staff member to assist. It's always better to ask for support if it's available. Don't let pride get in the way. Creating a safe environment is your priority. Lots of provisions also have walkie-talkies you can use to communicate in these circumstances. Remove the audience. If there's a fight breaking out on the playground, we always suggest to remove the audience. I'm sure you can all appreciate kids will be kids and they can play up to their friends. If we remove everyone else who's going fight, 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 they lose their audience, which could help to de-escalate things quicker. Calling or shouting for help. In emergencies where behaviours continue to escalate even further, you might need to shout and call for help. Now, this clearly doesn't convey calm communication, so this is only going to be used where you believe you can no longer control the crisis safely. Let's talk through an example of an escalating risky situation and what you can do to intervene safely. Let's say two students are arguing in a busy school cafeteria at lunchtime. We'll put this into levels to make sure it's clear. So level 1, a low-level disruption, but it's causing concern. Their argument becomes louder and louder, and one of the young people stands up. The first thing you should try to do is effective communication to try and de-escalate the situation, providing choices with consequences. The next level is where we see a physical threat. Your verbal reasoning has been ignored and the child that's standing bangs his knife and fork on the table in anger. His face is flushing bright red, swearing at the other student and threatening him. Now, because this is happening in such a public area, the other students soon catch on and begin egging the students on to fight. A collaborative approach is ideal in this situation because of the scale of the environment. It's so important to recognise when you need help, and you should always be familiar with your own organisation's policies and procedures. Get another staff member to remove the audience and prevent the other children from potentially making this situation worse. At level 3, we see an act of physical violence. One of the students hits the other. The first priority here is to protect the child who's been hit and ensure they're okay. Never try and pull them away or wrap your arms around them, because as much as you think this is helpful, in actual fact, you're restricting their movement and preventing them from keeping themselves safe and getting out of the situation. The main thing you need to do is separate them safely, and you do need another member of staff to do this. Physical intervention or hold are an absolute last resort and can only be used by somebody who's fully certified to do so, or where the situation absolutely requires this to prevent further harm. Always ask yourself what is reasonable, necessary, and proportionate. You do need to keep yourself safe as well, so don't just rush in. Think before you act. Remember, situations can escalate regardless of your best intentions and efforts. Don't take it personally, and remember to stay calm. If you don't know your organisational policy and procedures, it's vital that you familiarise yourself with these to ensure safer working practices in these tough situations. Our next video, which is about therapeutic rapport, will detail how to rebuild relationships after students have reached that crisis point in order to regain a healthy channel of communication. If you found this video on dealing with risk behaviours useful, then send the link to someone else who might also like it. Sharing knowledge and resources will help everyone perfect their craft. I've been Natalie from My Progression. Make sure you tune in next week to see more videos on working in education. And let's keep your career in motion.